Hey folks, I'm Mark Ryan. This is Super Review, and this is the new Campfire Audio Moon Rover. So you probably have noticed I haven't reviewed a lot of Campfire Audio IEMs over the past couple of years, but I have heard most of them. I've heard most of their stuff either at audio shows or through friends, and I haven't really been that impressed with most of it, to be honest. The first two Campfire Audio IEMs I heard were the Ara as well as the Andromeda 2020. And those two made a big impression on me. Like the Ara, I eventually actually bought a copy of it for myself because I really do like that set. I think it's got something special to it. But all of the other newer stuff, I haven't really dug that much. But I was at Campfire's booth in CanJam earlier this year, and I listened to their lineup of new stuff. And this one, the Moon Rover, was my favorite of the bunch. In fact, I would say this is my favorite Campfire Audio IEM that I've heard over the last, I don't know, let's call it 4 years. And I guess I'm ready to let you know what I think. Before we get into that, I guess a quick shout out to Jadis. He's another IEM reviewer who sent this in, loaned it to me for review. Thank you very much, Jadis. I've got him linked in the description down below. Subscribe to his channel. But for the past couple of weeks, few weeks, I've been listening to this IEM, comparing it with some others like it, and I'm ready to let you know what I think. And I guess I should give you some specs up front. What makes this IEM interesting? Couple things, okay? One, it's Campfire. Two, it's kind of pricey. It's $1,200, which is not the most expensive Campfire IEM. In fact, it might even be on the low end for them right now. But it is definitely pricey. But maybe what makes this, what's kind of separates this from their other IEMs is that this is rocking a planar magnetic driver. And it's not their first planar driver IEM, but it is using kind of uniquely a 12 millimeter planar. Like most planar drivers out there are like 14 millimeters. I feel like they're all kind of like the same. This one is one of the more different planar driver IEMs, and I think that's probably part of why I like it. But maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So let's dive to the table. We'll talk about what you get in the physical form factor, what comes inside the box, how cool this box is, by the way, and fit and comfort, all that jazz. And then we'll get into talking about the sound, frequency response, my personal listening impressions, and we'll do a couple of comparisons with this IEM. But all right, let's see where to start with. Let's just start with this box. First of all, I know it's out of focus and slightly blurry, but just a quick shout out to whoever is doing the packaging design at Campfire. Like there's something like a little trippy, like a little Grateful Dead-y about it. Maybe also kind of reminds me of like an old downtown. I don't even know if that means anything, but like I really do appreciate what they're doing with this packaging. That is something special. I dig that. Thank you, Campfire. Let's put the IEM to the side, though, and let's talk about what you get inside the packaging. Let's go over the basic stuff first. You get a microfiber towel with a Campfire Audio logo emblazoned on it. That's pretty cool. You also get a cleaning tool with a brush and a pick. We're not going to talk about what that's for, but I do want to talk about what this is for. This is actually a magnet, which I don't know what that's for. I'm curious about that one. But if you wanted to see if it's a magnet, look at this. It connects to that pin. And on that note, we've got a little pin. This, I think, is a really cool pack-in with an IEM, especially a premium brand like this. Like, I feel like companies need to be including more stuff that just let us fans kind of rep the brand. And if you're a big fan of Campfire Audio, I know a lot of people are, this is a really, really nice kind of premium feeling way to do that. Can't cost that much. More companies should probably do something like this, but shout out to Campfire for doing that. They do also include a little baggie for your individual earpieces. I'm personally not a big fan of this, but I know a lot of people, again, you're spending a lot of money on IEM. I get it. You want to protect yourself as much as possible. So you've got individual pouches for your individual earpieces. It's a little overkill, in my opinion, but if you're into it, they include it, and that's nice. They do include a couple of different sets of ear tips. There is this set of kind of short-stemmed silicone ear tips. Kind of reminds me of like a common coffee ear tip that you can buy on AliExpress, and as well as a foam ear tip that I believe comes in multiple sizes. I actually didn't use any of those. We'll talk about it eventually, but actually, I'm gonna put that to the side still. We got one more accessory to talk about. And it's this carry case, which I actually don't know what to feel about this carry case. Certainly this feels premium. This feels much nicer than your average pack-in carry case. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is actually made out of real leather. It smells amazing. But it's a unique way to carry your IEMs. It's certainly large, but it's very thin and flat, right? So I guess you kind of just throw your IEMs in there, throw your money and your credit cards in there. Like, this is basically a wallet. It's basically a really nice leather wallet that has a Campfire logo on it. And it's got magnetic clasps that hold it closed. Like, it's certainly premium. I still don't really know what to make of it because I don't know how I would personally use it, but maybe it makes more sense to you and you like that. Anyway, let's talk about the IEM itself. We'll talk about the build quality and starting with the cable. Let's do it. Let's talk about this cable. This is a typical cable you get in a lot of Campfire Audio IEMs, and there's some good things and some not so great things to say about it. Let's just start with the not so great. Like, you can see, it's a little bit memory prone, right? Not just in that it's been wound up and it wants to return to its wound size, but also you can see it's, you know, it's got some kinks and some folds in the wind of this cable. I don't love that, but what I do like is how thin it is, okay? And this memory proneness will actually, it will wear out a little bit more. And I'm just saying from experience, because I have used other Campfire audio cables like this one. It should wear out a little bit. I just haven't been using it because I have a more premium cable I've been using. But this is nice. I like that it's lightweight, it's thin. You've got a nice small white split here. You've got a chin cinch that actually functions. And check this out, if you don't want to use a chin cinch, it just kind of integrates neatly with the Y split, so you can pretend you don't have one. I think that's pretty cool. And then you've got your standard preformed ear hooks up here that terminate into MMCX connectors. So yes, like basically all Campfire Audio IEMs, this thing terminates into MMCX. If you're a 2-pin stan, you might be disappointed. I personally don't really have a big opinion or big strong opinion on 2-pin versus MMCX. The only thing I like to see is if it is going to be MMCX, I want the connectors to be fairly stiff so that this thing isn't just spinning around freely. And these are like fairly stiff. They're not the most stiff. And you can see I'm moving it around fairly easily with one finger, but mostly this thing holds itself in place. So I'm gonna give these ones a pass. All right, anything else to talk about the cable? I don't really think so. So let's talk about these earpieces. And there's a couple of things we could talk about. We can talk about the comfort, we can talk about the build quality, the aesthetic. I'm gonna start with the aesthetic because I'm superficial, and also that's one of the things that's most different about these, because this is using a shell that Campfire is used on a bunch of other IEMs. In fact, those other ones I mentioned up top, the Ara and the Andromeda 2020, the shell shape is basically identical to what we have here. What's different, or what sets this one apart, is that it's made of, from what I understand, a titanium shell, and you can see that it's been like heat treated to kind of give it like this rainbow colored effect. And that is kind of the standout design feature here of the Moon Rover. And I'm not a big fan of it, if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, it's kind of a cool idea. I've seen this effect on like motorcycle tailpipes or exhaust pipes, not usually in the tail. Usually you'll see it more in the headers of a motorcycle. Think like an old Bonneville or something like that. It's kind of a cool look, I guess, on those motorcycles, and I can see why they thought it would be a cool way to go with this. But to me, it just kind of has the look of like distressed jeans, where it's like, I see why people like distressed jeans. Like an actual pair of worn jeans can look kind of cool, but there's always something about like purposely distressing it that makes it look a little bit off. And here's where this one looks a little bit off. One, it's like symmetrical between the two, which I guess if it was like actually heat driven, maybe it would be somewhat symmetrical. It's not really on motorcycles, but anyway. The other thing is just that you can tell that like the heat treated the outer panel and the IEM shell itself separately, because you can see like this has been blued here on the outer panel, but it hasn't been blued here, right? Whereas if this had been in some theoretical world where this thing gets so hot that the titanium starts shifting colors under normal use, ostensibly that would have applied evenly to the rest of the shell as well. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. But personally, I think this would look just better with the titanium shells, but I'm biased. I still really like the way that the Campfire Audio Ara looks. But apart from that, the aesthetics, like the build quality in these things feel really, really nice. Again, they are a nice solid metal. They are tiny, like these are a very small earphone, but because they are made of that very solid metal, they've got like a weight to them and a premium feel to them. I really do like that. I kind of like the gold faceting on here. That's a little bit different, I believe, versus my Ara. So yeah, I don't know. And also the metal has got a little bit of a gold tint to it, a little bit of a bronze tint to it, which maybe again is just like the heat treatedness, but it does seem like it's a slightly different tinted titanium than what came on the Ara. And that touch I think is nice. Like again, I think minus the heat treating, this would look a little bit nicer in my opinion. But apart from that, let's talk about the fit and comfort. There's a couple of things when I first saw this shell, just pictures of it, I thought it would actually be a problem. Like you can see there's like somewhat of, abrupt edges that you could imagine putting this thing in your ear would not be comfortable. But I actually find the Ara, which again, exact same shell, to be one of my most comfortable IEMs that I have. And this guy is frankly no exception. You can see as it fits in my ear, I would say it's medium small size. And even though it does have those somewhat sharp edges in terms of design features, they don't feel sharp at all in my ear. This thing just like, it sits in my ear comfortably. I sleep with this particular IEM as well as my Ara all the time. A very comfortable sleeping IEM. And even though the nozzle is a little bit on the long side, which is actually why I'm using a different ear tip than one of the ones that comes stock, even though it's got somewhat of a long nozzle, it actually it nestles in quite well, and I'm even comfortable wearing this on my side as like a side sleeper. Although more or less I'm a back sleeper. But here, let me actually just highlight that for you real quick. You can see the nozzle is not particularly short, but you put a ear tip on it like this. This is a Moondrop spring tip that just kind of shortens that overall length, and I find this to be a very comfortable fitting IEM. And I think, frankly, that's probably as much as I can and should talk about the physical form factor. So let me roadie wrap this thing back up and let's start talking about the sound. And like I have been, we're going to start with the frequency response, which I've got up on Squiggling. If you want to check it out for yourself, I've got this linked in the description down below. But yeah, let's analyze it together. So this is the frequency response that I measured of the Moon Rover. You see that there is, unfortunately, a little bit of, well, a fairly significant channel imbalance across the entire frequency response of this. Thankfully, it's not a channel imbalance I hear. It just shows up in there. You would kind of hope that with a $1,200 IEM, the channel matching would be a little bit more careful. But again, it's not a thing I hear in my ear, so I'm not particularly worried about it. But apart from that apparent channel imbalance, there's some good stuff to see in this frequency response. In fact, this is the most normal looking Campfire audio frequency response I've seen in a while. And normal might be boring for you, I get it. People like Campfire audio stuff because they do kind of unique sound signatures. They do stuff that's a lot of times just like really bassy, and they do weird things with the frequency response that can give them like kind of fun, exciting like spatial effects, but which most of the time to me just sound kind of wrong and bad. And this one doesn't. This one sounds actually, I think, really good. All right, let's take a look a little bit deeper. So here, basically from 1000 hertz down to 20 hertz, I would say this is basically neutral. You can see there's a little bit of a bloat here in kind of like the lower mid-range, and it does give it kind of like this warm, soft mid-range. But if you're looking for a bass boosted IEM, that is not what the Moon Rover is about. This is basically just kind of like a warm tuned mid-range. And you can see that there's a little bit of a fairly significant recession here in kind of the upper mid-range. And so this feature, this recession, combined with this feature, like a slight bloat to it, gives it kind of like this relaxed, warm, but neutral and not bassy sound signature. What counterbalances that well is the treble. The treble is a little bit on the excessive side. I think some people will have issues with the treble. And to be fair, like even to my ear, depending on how I fit this thing, again, like to me, it makes sense to get this thing as deep into my ear as possible. So using the shallower fit ear tips definitely helps with these resonance peaks, but it might be a little bit on, it might take some time. It might take some work to get that exactly right for you. And if you don't, it might just end up sounding a little bit bright and crashy because there is somewhat of an excessive treble presentation here. But that's just generally the sound signature. Like this, that's the wrong camera. The Campfire Moon Rover is basically a neutral IEM with a bit of warmth to that mid-range and a bit of upper treble to kind of give it some contrastiness and balance that out. So, all right, that's just kind of like my analysis of the frequency response. What does it sound like to my ear? Pretty much the same as what I said. It's a little bit on the bright side. It can be a little bit sibilant, again, using different ear tips and fitting and trying to get it inserted as deep as possible is going to help reduce that, but it's never like the cleanest treble presentation. It does give me, I would say, because of that probably excessive treble, nice imaging, nice stereo separation, good sense of width, and it also it does a really good job with kind of the micro contrast and texturing. And frankly, that's the aspect of this IEM that stood out the most to me when I was listening to it at CanJam, is the texturing. It can actually sound a little bit on the sandy side, a little bit almost dry in the treble presentation. But the more I listened to this, and maybe it was just the more I dialed it into the fit, and maybe it was the more I just kind of brain burned myself into it. But the more I listened to it, I just kind of really did appreciate that texturing as a feature that I like about this. And it sets it apart from a lot of other IEMs. So you just got like this, again, kind of warm, relaxed mid-range with this nice sense of, or this interesting sense of texturing. It's almost like an ASMR quality to it, which is probably not going to be for everybody. But again, I think it's unique. And in this world of planar IEMs that all kind of sound roughly the same, I actually really appreciate what Campfire's done with this particular IEM. But let me bring in a couple of other IEMs for comparison, just to kind of orient ourselves around it. So this is the Ara I mentioned, my personal Ara that I bought. And as you can see, which one of these looks better to you? I think this one looks better, but it's my baby, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. Listening to these things head to head, they are both kind of similar. They're both going for kind of like a warm, neutral-ish tune. The Moon Rover sounds more normal, okay? This one is a little bit more colored in the mid-range. It's going to sound like overall a warmer tune, but also with a similar like brightness to the treble that's kind of like counterbalancing it. I think overall the Moon Rover is frankly just like a better version of the Ara. Like it has fewer issues with the treble. I think this one has kind of similar situation where you really do need to dial in the fit in order to get it there. But I think this has fewer issues. It has, again, that texturing quality, which I think is a little bit better than what you get on this, which can sound a little bit on the smoothed over side. The benefit of the Ara is I think that it does a more standout job with the stereo width. While this does a good job, and I highlighted that as one of the benefits of the Moon Rover, I think the Ara just does like a uniquely good job of, a unique job of the spatial effects that I found. It's just like a reason why I keep coming back to this IEM. And then there is something about the bass quality on this that also, again, it's not a bassy IEM. If you're looking for a bassy set, neither of these is going to be that. But there is something about the bass quality on this that I found it draws me to it. And that's actually the reason I bought this IEM. Whereas here, the bass is fine. It's even arguably, I don't know. Is it better than this? No, I think the bass is like kind of categorically better on the Ara. It's a little bit bloomier on this set, but because there's not a lot of bass, it's not really a problem. It's just, I don't know, there's something about the texturing of the bass here that I really like. But I don't know, there's a lot of similarities between them because they're going for a similar thing. I just think you're trading off kind of more normal sound signature that for me works better with more music for something that's a little bit more colored and a little bit more unique, I suppose, but they're both unique. And for that, actually, that's part of why I like this IEM a lot. And that's why this is my favorite Campfire Audio IEM in the last 4 years or so, basically since this one came out. Do I like it better than this one overall? I don't know. I feel like I'd have to live with it for a couple of years to really be able to tell you that, because I don't know, in some ways this thing is like really behind the times in the way it sounds. Like I think its upper treble extension is not that impressive, whereas here you get that planar treble extension. It does a better job of that, but there's still nonetheless something about this IEM that keeps bringing me back. But we'll put that one to the side because I did want to talk about another, hold on, where did I put it? Another planar IEM. Seriously, where did I put it? It's right here in front of me, my goodness. This is the 64 Audio Solo. So this is, I'm bringing this one up because it's also planar, it's also new, and it's also from a premium manufacturer. So while this guy is $1,200, this one's actually $1,400. And this one's using a more typical, I believe 13 or maybe a 14 millimeter planar. I think it's a 14 millimeter. And I mentioned this one's using a smaller 12 millimeter planar. Why I think that's relevant is not because I necessarily care about the size of the planar driver, apart from the fact that 14 millimeter is just the size that you see in all of these planar drivers. This one's using something different, and I think because of that, this one sounds the most different. The Moon Rover sounds more different than other planars, whereas the 64 audio one here, it is tuned more like a 64 audio than your average planar. It's a little bit on the warmer side, more relaxed, less V-shaped, more U-shaped, but still really heavy in the bass. And still, you know, well extended in the treble, a little bit sharp, a little bit troublesome in the treble, like a lot of the other planars. But really, it is all about that kind of thick, meaty bass. It's not the most well-controlled bass, but it's bassy, and it gives you kind of like the full range of sound. I think this is a sound signature that's going to appeal probably to most people out of the box, but for me, I actually prefer the more neutral and unique sound signature that I get here out of the Moon Rover. I think if you're thinking about either of these IEMs, they're very different, okay? I would not really be shopping for these two IEMs on the basis of them both being planars, because they both sound quite a bit different. But if you're shopping for them because they're new IEMs from premium manufacturers in around this price range, I think it's worth checking them both out. And I would actually be really curious to hear what more people think about these two IEMs, because while I think this is a sound signature that, again, is probably going to appeal to more people, it's also more similar to the stuff that you can get at a cheaper price, whereas the Moon Rover is a little bit more unique, and for that, I dig it. And I guess it's going to lead us into nothing else to say except wrap up this review. So, Campfire Audio Moon Rover, it's not cheap. It's $1,200, and frankly, you can get stuff that sounds better for $1,200, or for much less than $1,200, if I'm honest. But it is nonetheless like my favorite Campfire Audio IEM in a while. And not just that, like there's something special about it that I like, okay? I like the build quality, I like the form factor, because I just like the way that they do this stuff. Not super in love with the particular aesthetic design choice I went with this one, but the build quality is quite special. The sound is quite special. And for that, you know, is this for everybody? I don't think so. Is this for me? It kind of is. I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. And if you want to check it out, I've got it linked in the description down below. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ding the YouTube bell, join me on Discord, where I want to hear what are your thoughts on these two particular planar IEMs. And I guess with that out of the way, I'll catch you on the next super review. Cheers.
Joined with the force of reviews, we now have the tools to brave the misleading world of audio fools. Hey, this review is super, and so are you. Grab your headphones, sniff a graph, and share your thoughts in this pursuit.